Welcome to Capitol Preview, a weekly bipartisan discussion with Iowa legislators about the key issues facing our state. Brought to you by Mediacom.
Good morning and welcome to another episode of Capitol Preview, a show where Mediacom and the Iowa Cable and Telecommunications Association brings you a show that discusses the representatives and senators' work up at the Iowa State House. Our guest today is Senator Bisignano. He's a District 17 senator from Southeast Des Moines in downtown Des Moines. Welcome, Senator. It's good to see you this morning.
Good to see you again, Bill.
And I appreciate you coming in, discussing this with you. So, Senator, we're just going to have kind of a casual conversation. You are a person that converses easily and very approachable. So, what is the deal with the bill that passed the Senate State Government Committee last week, and that would change a variety of election laws and rules?
Well, Bill, first of all, it's a big mistake. It's just another attempt by the Republicans to suppress the vote, and they do so in a number of ways. They shorten the day, the election day itself, by an hour, close at 8 p.m. instead of 9. Which statistics has showed us in the last general election in Story County alone, 8% of the people who voted in that last hour. Then they went so far as to restrict having satellite voting on public property, which is a direct hit at the universities because in their opinion, those aren't their voters. And so they're making it as difficult as they can for people to vote. But in the shrapnel of that, the veterans' homes included. And, these are individuals that don't have the mobility to go out and vote. But what they didn't do, they didn't restrict it on private college campuses, and that doesn't quite make sense. So it's their plan, it's their master plan to get as few voters out there to vote as possible when we ought to be doing the exact opposite. So it's a very bad plan. It's a very partisan plan. We will put up, a fight. But as you know, we're not in a position to change things up there, and I doubt if we'll have much success. So we need the voters to contact their legislators to tell them that we don't need a change. We have one of the best voter systems in the country.
Can you tell us when that change is going to be debated and voted on?
I can't tell you. They control the debate calendar.
Got it. Okay.
But
we're still yet in this session.
We're still waiting for it to come to the floor, and I assume it will be coming.
Okay. Very good. Tell me what's happening with the Republican plan to change the state's court system. I know that's been a big one, in this legislative session.
Well, the Republicans already controlled two branches of the government. They got the governor's seat and they have the legislature. And now they want to control the judiciary. And it's all a result of a couple of decisions that they didn't like. And it seems like the way they're legislating anymore is if they get a decision they don't like, then they change the law. When they talked about the judiciary being an activist judge, we're being just as reactionary by changing. You win some court cases, decisions, and you lose some. And they don't like to lose. So what they're doing is they're saying they're giving more voice to the people. They're taking politics out of the selection process. But in fact, they've put more politics in it because the commission now consists of 16 members. Mm-hmm. And what they're doing is they're giving the governor half the appointments directly, mm-hmm. and they took out Senate confirmation. So there's really no check and balance in the Senate. And then they're giving the leadership of the legislature the other selections. So they will be picked directly by politicians. So all politicians will be picking all the judges or all the commissioners who then will come forward with recommendations to the governor to pick someone that she's already set up through the process of this new commission. So we've had probably one of the most respected judicial nominating commissions in the country. We don't elect our judges because we don't want our judges to campaign. We don't want them to take campaign contributions. We have what we call retention, and retention works very well. As we all know, years back, there was a very unpopular decision on gay marriage, and we lost 3 Supreme Court justices. Well, that's the retention election. But to have them politically picked and groomed for philosophical issues of the day, the pendulum swings.
Right.
And once you go down that road and dismantle this nonpartisan judicial nominating commission, if the Democrats would then assume the majority, which they will in time, then we would be in that same position to make those same political nomination members. And so there are just some things in politics that you leave be because the pendulum does swing, and you'd like to keep it consistent.
Very good. So what are employers telling you, Senator, their number one problem is these days?
Well, we have 60,000 jobs open in this state, and we have an unemployment rate of 2.3, 2.4%.
Right.
And those numbers aren't working together. And so when you talk to employers, they're saying, we don't have people qualified to take the positions that we're creating. And that should be a direct correlation in how we're funding education, because we don't need to fund a bunch of positions and diplomas that aren't serving the needs of Iowans, aren't serving the citizens of Iowans. And in retrospect, we have people that are unemployed or underemployed. So we need to concentrate on community colleges. They should be connected to the employers, new employers that are coming in, older employers that are retooling, know what they want, and then address that in the community college system and through apprenticeship programs. We have some great apprenticeship programs, but they have to be funded. Yeah. And this is at a time now they're talking about voucher programs and taking money and giving it to private institutions. This is a time where we need to step up and really fund public education at all levels, not just K-12. We need pre-kindergarten mandatory, and we need community colleges and apprenticeship programs funded.
Very good, Senator. Can you give us an update on the Medicaid revitalization? I know that's been an ongoing issue in this state.
In my opinion, Bill, it's no better than when it started. People are still being denied services, or the services are slow. Providers are not being paid timely, and so they're not participating. And in rural Iowa, it's worse because they don't have the providers to begin with, like we do in the big urban areas. And when you ask a provider to float you a loan because he has to go to the bank to pay his bills because the MCOs will not timely send the check, things aren't working. And people that have had services, been on services, are either being questioned or denied whether they need them. It's a catastrophe. And the governor said she would straighten this out. I don't see any progress made, and I think that it's something that's going to be around for a long time until Democrats get control and can straighten out the debacle that was started with Branstad.
Very good. Tell us about an amendment to our country's Second Amendment that you talked about last week down at the Capitol, to add this Second Amendment into our Iowa Constitution.
Well, ironically, the Second Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, we're one of 6 states that does not have the federal version of the Second Amendment in the state constitution. And it was a perfect time for the Iowa Senate and the Iowa House, everyone, to do in a bipartisan fashion, which we don't do many things in bipartisan fashion anymore, is to adopt the Second Amendment to the U.S. Constitution into the Iowa Constitution. And so what they chose to do was to add a term called strict scrutiny to that amendment, which makes it nearly impossible to add any deviation from the language of just open, free right to bear arms. And no one on the floor, and I filed the amendment that would take the pure language and move it over. We know what that means. We know what to expect. We've adopted laws in the state of Iowa that have addressed, whether it's through background check or through age limits, where you can carry into our state law. Under this addition of strict scrutiny, the Supreme Court has to start at a point that anything beyond the strict language is unconstitutional. And so therefore the restrictions we have of no guns in schools, or we have age limits for buying short guns, all these things, background checks, all these things could be challenged and could be declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court under the strict scrutiny standard. And that was the big debate. And so rather than doing it in a bipartisan, easy fashion, and after all these years make us one of, now just 5 states that wouldn't have it, they chose to take this route, a very rigid, very strict, dictated language that is being pushed across this country, and we object.
So, getting a couple of the lighter issues, well, maybe not so much lighter, but you can see that the presidential candidates on the Democratic side are really crisscrossing our state. So I'm just curious to hear your.
Well, I'm sure you've run into one at a gas station
Absolutely.
or at a fast food restaurant or wherever you've gone. We're the target, and there are a tremendous number of people that have entered the race, and that's good, I guess. We get a variety, and it's going to be interesting. It's very early still in the race, and some will get out before others even get in, I think.
Right.
And so
I think that's probably true.
We're going to have quite a mix and quite a selection. You're not going to be able to say, well, I didn't have this brand of ice cream, because you're going to get it in all 51 flavors of this. And there's some good candidates, very good candidates. Also, we've got some candidates that really are strong candidates. Vice President Biden, been in government 40-some years. He's been vetted more probably than anyone. Very knowledgeable on foreign policy and the workings of the presidency. Hasn't gotten in yet. And so that's a strong card, and that card hasn't entered yet. Almost entered, but not quite. He put his toes a little bit in the water and pulled them back out, but we have to wait to see, what he's going to do. And that's going to change some of those that are already in the race, and then some of those who are thinking about getting in the race.
Senator, we have time for one more quick question. We're talking about the proposal to legalize sports gambling in our state. So in about 30 seconds, can you give us your opinion on that?
Well, I think sports betting will be another option in this state. This state has more forms of gambling than any state in the country. It's how we do it. And there's a line. There's people that would like some sports betting. Then there's those that don't want it at the amateur level, which is the college level. And now we have in-play betting, which didn't exist years ago, where you could bet on your phone on every play that's happening on the court, field, or whatever. And so making sure that the checks and balances are there, making sure that we do it right, and we can keep the integrity as all our gaming has. And it'll be quite a debate also. And so we're looking forward to that debate.
Very good. Senator, we have reached the end of our time here, and we appreciate very much. You're an interesting gentleman to listen to his political views and your work that you do up there at the Capitol. We appreciate that very much. So Senator Bisignano, District 17, Senator from Southeast Des Moines and downtown Des Moines, we appreciate you coming in here and visiting with our folks this morning. So
thank you, Bill.
Yeah.